I'm just back from Arizona at the Raise Fest conference. We've got Larry Martin coming on the show as a repeat guest, one of my favorite all-stars. So I'm really looking forward to having him here. Matt, do you have anything for housekeeping before we bring him on?
Locally in Rochester, we have our next general meeting for FRIA, Freedom First Real Estate Investors Association, which I'm president of and Mark is treasurer of, is on March 14th, the evening of March 14th, 5:30, doors open at Eagle Vale Banquet Center in Fairport, New York. And we're going to have a really exciting panel discussion about creating multi-generational wealth. So we have some experts that are coming on that have developed strategies and tactics that they want to share with our real estate community and how they are positioning their kids and kids so that they don't have to start at zero. So a lot of cool tactical type of things that they're going to share that I'm excited to learn about myself and moderating the panel. So that's what I got going on.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll get a link to that on my LinkedIn, and I'm sure you've got one on yours. But without any further ado, let's bring Larry on. Hey, Larry, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, nice to see both of you.
Yeah. I wish I would have run into you at Raise Fest. I feel bad. I did not see you off to the distance. I would have definitely come over and interrupted, but that's kind of what it was like. There were so many people. If you wanted to get into a conversation, you almost had to just insert yourself into it. And it was a great time. So
sure.
I'm sure you had a lot of
across the room, and you were pretty busy. I think you were talking to 2 or 3 people in a little huddle. And so rather than I should have interrupted you, because that was like the first day and the middle of the day. And then I couldn't catch up to you the next 2 days. I never saw you.
Nice. Well,
by the way, Mark, while I asked the first question, do you have the right microphone plugged in? Because it sounds like very echoey and that sort of thing. So maybe you can look into it. I was not at Raise Fest, Larry, so I'd like to get what your key takeaways were from your visit to Raise Fest this year.
Yeah, well, I hadn't been to an event like that in quite a while. Some smaller events in California and in Nevada, but not an event quite like that. I thought it was really well presented, very professional, and the attendees were really taken care of. I was never knowing where to go. I could always go to the Raise Fest desk, and they would tell me where to go next. Met a lot of folks that I've been seeing online, and met quite a few of them that I never expected to be there. Walked away with quite a bit of business to do. I probably have a dozen good solid leads to work on that are good sized projects or investments. Learned quite a bit too. It's pretty amazing the amount of technology that gets presented on stage there. So couldn't take notes quick enough, and so I'll buy all of the CDs for it, or get all the downloads for it. But it was excellent, very good. I don't think I'll miss it again. I think it was even more valuable than Raise Masters to me. So I really enjoyed it.
Did you get your early bird ticket for next year?
I have not. I got to check with my scheduler and make sure that it's clear. So I am booked out for quite a few events coming up this year. I'm going to miss a lot of opportunities I have so far. So I will make certain that she knows what dates to plug in. But I am definitely going.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think they've announced the dates or the venue yet. So it's one of the early bird surprises. You pay for the ticket and you have no idea where or when it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Larry, what's new in your world since we last talked? What have you been working on?
Oh, I've been focused on doing modular construction for probably 3 years, a little over 3 years. And now it's beginning to click. A lot of builders, a lot of developers, a lot of communities are beginning to see that they're not going to be able to fill the need for housing, all kinds of housing, from affordable to custom housing. That they're not going to be able to do it unless they do switch to modular. So I'm working on a build-to-suit factory, a 400,000 square foot factory in northern Nevada. I have a second one possibly up in the Northwest. We haven't determined where. And I have several projects I've been working on for about a year that are just now entitled. We'll start doing construction documents and should start the last quarter of this year and through all of next year to build 1,250 units. Have some new land projects in New Mexico. Have two Costa Rica projects that are resort properties with beachfront on the Pacific Ocean side. Pretty rare animals close to international airports. So we have a pretty good cross section of things to do. So we're going to be pretty busy this year. I think we're going to get hit with most of our work though next year, probably first and second quarter of next year, about a year from now.
That's a lot of projects.
Yeah, well, we take 6 at a time basically and peel them off. We don't do all the work on them. What we do is find the land and get it under contract, and then get the entitlements in place. Find either a builder or a GP sponsor to come in and take the project, and then we step out, but we'll stay in the project to whatever the final determination is for it, final disposition of it. So 5 to 7 years is kind of a reasonable time to figure we're in. We don't take anything out of the project, and we'll just ride along with it. So we have a lot of land that comes to us just because of how we operate and our personnel. We have civil engineers on board that see a lot of projects. So a lot of land comes to us.
That's awesome. How did you get the Costa Rica land?
That was my partner was 40 years managing Key Bank west of the Mississippi. And a lot of his clients back in those days were hotels and resort type projects that he helped fund and then did a lot of underwriting too. So they just naturally come to us. These two properties were brought to us by the landowner who needed them planned and then figure out what the market is and get the right development in place. It looks like that will be modular out of a factory in Mexico. But it's just, we've been around centuries, so everybody knows they can bring stuff to us and we'll work on it. If it makes sense, a lot of times at the very end, a landowner will ask us to stay in and carry the project all the way through. So the last 3 years, we've been doing that. We've been taking them through lining up all of the players to get it completed, leased up or in business, and then take it to financed and then take it to final disposition. I think that's basically what we do is deal flow. I have a long list of deals to work on, and it gets added to as my partner picks up and I pick up more land. So that's how we do it.
So have you ever done anything out of country like that in Costa Rica? That always makes me nervous when I get presented deals outside the U.S.
Yeah, no, I have not. My partner has, and then we have a couple of engineering groups that have done things all over the world that we tap into that already are seasoned in development approvals in foreign countries. So, we lean on them quite a bit. Basically, what we try to do is just put together the business concept, the deck for investment, and then get it funded and in the hands of the right operators, the right partners.
So how does the financing work like in Costa Rica? Because I've heard of I've had colleagues that have done developments in let's say the Dominican Republic, and they it's basically all cash. There's no banks that really touch or finance those types of deals. So what does it look like from that perspective?
Well, we come with investors that are ready to put money into the project. We just have to get it to a point where we've got it underwritten. So we have decades of relationships with investors. So typically a project like that requires 35 to 40% cash equity in the deal, and then most of the operators are not foreign; they are international, and most of them are actually based in the States, and so they are the ones that we depend upon the credibility for the financing. and they actually sign on the loan and have plenty of experience doing that. So we don't struggle too much with it, and we won't go anywhere that we can't really count on a relationship with the local approving bodies.
How big are the hotels going to be?
Well, both of the properties are about 350 acres, and they'll be eco projects, so there will be a lot of green and LEED and environmentally friendly development. We think that the units will be somewhere between 600 square feet and about 12 or 1,500 square feet. And the rentals on those will probably like $1,000 a night or even more. And so they'll be booked in advance. And I think the one right now we're looking at is about 250 units, and the other one looks like it's probably something less than that, but not too much, maybe 220, something like that.
Okay. That's a lot of acreage, 350 acres. Do you develop all of it, or go ahead?
No, most of it will be left pretty much
natural.
In a natural state. We have some beach frontage on both of the properties, which is pretty rare in Costa Rica. But the trails down and all of the development down around the beach will be separated from whatever developments are up the hill. And then whatever transportation between the two will be pretty environmentally sensitive. So the roads in are, normal freeways, basically from international airports that are less than an hour away. But the Costa Rica wants things left alone as much as possible, and there's no reason. Really, the natural beauty there is enough to create the attractions, we think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had questions about let's talk infrastructure, because how remote are these properties, and are the type of infrastructure you're going to need? Are you going to need like a wastewater treatment plant on site, or you need like a water desalination type of equipment for the drinking water? Tell us about that. I'm super intrigued.
Sure. Well, I've done projects in the past where you get a package plant where it comes in in 40-foot containers. A water treatment plant that takes the water back to not to potable, but certainly good enough to put back on the soil. Mm-hmm. And then electricity, we're off the grid, so the electric is all solar and battery storage. And for the most part, we're not worried too much about temperatures. We're not going to see any snow there. Won't be any freezing nights or any of that. So most of the heating and cooling will be natural for the most part. But I can't tell you exactly what it is. We haven't done the feasibility yet on it. We're in the middle of just starting that, but at some later date we can certainly talk about it. There's quite a bit of new engineering that really takes all of the infrastructure requirements and packages them up and makes them site specific. And there are quite a few. Navajo Nation, for instance, will finance those. So and it becomes a monthly bill for communities or for businesses like this. And it's pretty routine now. That's been going on though for probably 30 years. I was doing projects like that in North Carolina. That would have been 2005. So there's plenty of science there.
Wow.
How popular is it to do hotels as modular? Well, they've been doing it on the East Coast for 25 years. They've been stacking them up, 100 units per acre density. And there's several projects on the West Coast that are being done that way now. There's one pretty well-known one in San Francisco that is 120 units, I think. And they stack up really nicely, and the engineering is pretty simple and compact, and you don't have to do a lot of steel superstructure or those kinds of things. They will stack up pretty nicely. So and it's becoming kind of run of the mill. I saw an article not too long ago about was 100 unit. Is it 100 unit? It was pretty large number of units got built over a weekend. And then they have to all stacked up, and then they have to come in and hook it all together. But everything is plug and play now. It isn't. You don't have to string wire or do any of those things. The units all plug together into circuits that are pre-planned, and usually you're occupying a 100-unit hotel in less than a couple of months.
Wow. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So, what does the next 12 months look like for you, Larry?
Oh, I'm buried right now. I've got a customizable fund of funds that's launching here pretty soon, and it'll be an umbrella fund with 10 other funds underneath it. And so we're kind of focused on modular, from technology to manufacturing to actual projects. So, and we're not going to just do our projects. We'll do anybody's projects, that as long as they can meet our underwriting. So I think I'm going to be pretty well locked up with that. The other thing I'm working on really well that you guys really know a lot about is getting things automated. But I'm trying to put a bunch of automations in place, so I'm not spending 14 hours a day just trying to keep up with my email. So there's a lot of that, and I come from the age of horses and crank telephones. And so trying to keep up is a bit of a struggle, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. So that's what my year looks like. I think we have 3 projects that will start under construction. Once they start, I get to go work on some other things. So that's what I'm seeing. But I want to also get more in contact with the fundraisers around the country. It's all changing. An awful lot of the traditional financing is going the way of towards private funders now. Big chunks of family offices that have billions of dollars that are looking for just decent returns. A lot of foreign money is coming in too. So I think I'm going to spend a little bit of time trying to become acquainted with them.
What's your game plan for doing that?
It's really about being, right now I'm on LinkedIn as much as I can possibly be, reaching out as far as I can. I'm also trying to meet up with folks that go to events all over the world that are looking for projects. We can give them projects to take to get funding. And so we're just outreach, we're just reaching out as far as we can that makes sense. I have a pretty good national and beginning to be international network for a lot of modular experts and folks that have been in the business a long time that came over from Stick Built and from other development sources years ago. So we got it's a nice cross section of folks. They're all pretty friendly. There is no competition, I can tell you that. We're never going to catch up to the houses that we need to build. I think the biggest problem we have right now is workforce, and it looks like workforce will pretty much be handled, I think, in the next year or two. We certainly have a population that doesn't have enough to do right now. So I'm just trying to pull together all of the strings and all of that, kind of dovetail a lot of different specialties together, focused on problem solving, the main one being housing, and probably the second one would be manufacturing.
Yeah. So any affordable housing type of things you've done in the past, like LIHTC or anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't done any. The people that I'm working with, the manufacturer that I'm working with, has been in business for 16 years, and he tried to do some affordable many years ago. And affordable is just kind of you're going to have to go to new technology. There is a technology out there. It's VEGO, VEGO, if you want to look it up, and it is a snap together. Like putting a bunch of Legos together. You can build rooms, and they're bulletproof and well insulated, and the military uses them, and they apparently can be built for $45-50 a foot. I'm not certain. I haven't verified any of those numbers, but that's what's been presented to me. That looks like the opportunity for quick housing, for either workforce housing or just to get people out of the elements. You know, I think I may have told you this story. I live 2 blocks from the Truckee River in Reno, and every year the number of folks that die on the river keeps going up. It was more and more homeless are out on the streets. So, you know, getting that a part of it taken care of is certainly a priority, but nobody can afford to do it. And I don't know where the money comes from. You know, there aren't many investors that are willing to do something with no return.
Right.
Yeah, the cost of affordable housing has actually, like true blue affordable housing, like LIHTC housing, has gone through the roof.
Yep.
Just even over the past 3 years, whereas it used to cost about, you know, let's say $250,000 to $300,000 a unit to produce like a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments. And we're seeing most recent projects in New York State that are costing upwards of $555,000 a unit to produce those for rehab projects,
Right.
like historic adaptive reuse projects. And a lot of it's been, soft costs are buried into it. Plus, the business model is kind of antithesis to the typical real estate business model, where affordable housing developers get paid in development fees,
Right.
not on any type of cash flow from the project. So the developers are almost incentivized to make the projects as expensive as humanly possible, because the greater the project cost, the greater the development fee, and that's how they make their money and keep the lights on with their companies. So it's definitely a big problem where we need to marry the incentive structure from naturally occurring affordable housing to where the rubber hits the road in this country to actually move the needle on the affordable housing crisis.
Sure. Well, modular will save you time and exposure to the market. It can get built in 40% of the time stick built or site built does. The costs are going to be the same. They really don't vary too much. The engineering creates a product that is a 100-year product instead of a 40-year product. It's lower maintenance, and if you'll write off components as much as you possibly can, you can get close to breaking even on affordable. But some of the biggest help that's coming right now are from people like the Department of Energy has a program that if you'll prove to them that you have enough pipeline, they will give you the money that's necessary to incorporate all the LEED and green and energy efficiency into the units. We're relying on that quite a bit, actually, for a number of projects too as well. So, and I don't know how you get government out of it. I'm beginning to. I'm going to start looking at ways to finance that we haven't looked at before, that are not commonplace. There's a lot that comes out of the Muslim community and some other communities around the world where they do a style of financing that's actually affordable. I don't know how the returns measure up to what's competitive in the marketplace, but I think that a lot of private funding is going to be looking at that long-term returns on their money, kind of to keep the taxes down. I'm hoping that the opportunity zones will all be reapproved again to go beyond 2026. There's huge opportunity there to create a profit and tax-free profit if you just stay in the project long enough. So I think we're looking at a new landscape for real estate development and investment. I think that's the only way affordable is going to come around. And LIHTC and Vigo styles of engineering and construction, I think, are going to take a better place here. They're not quite as friendly to live in, but they are good, clean, stable sources of housing.
What does your return look like that you're offering to other fundraisers?
Yeah, well, depending upon when you want to get in a project, if you want to get in with the land with us, with the land purchase and stay in with us all the way to the very end, you could be looking at 2.5 or 3x return, cash on cash return, and we're aiming at we'd like to benchmark 20% internal rate of return, just as a minimum, and then the pro rata share of cash flow when it starts. We'll start into cash flow a lot sooner than a stick-built project, because as quickly as you can get 8 units put up in a few weeks, you can start leasing them out, and as quickly as you can build them, you can lease them out. So we feel like we're going to be able to pre-lease a lot of corporate housing where our projects are located. There is not enough housing. We have a need for about 110,000 houses in our region, and no way to get them built really quickly. So we're going to go cut deals with some of the local employers to house the engineers that they've already hired that can't come to the area because they don't have houses to move their families to.
Yeah.
So even with modular being cost effective, I mean, we still have the component of we're having the cost to deliver housing outpacing incomes in this country. So I don't know, what are the ideas in terms of solving that problem? Because that's the problem that exists in our own community. We have a huge demand for housing.
Yeah.
The only way to produce housing that is that's not luxury oriented in our community, because there's only a certain amount of capacity for that in terms of demand perspective, is subsidies. And when you have the long tail of the government that's involved, even with a private public partnership, it takes a long time, and the supply is not meeting up with demand. So what do you have to say to that?
Sure. Well, I think production is going to follow car production. You're going to have 6 different models and 3 different versions of each model, and that's going to be your choice. And if you want anything beyond that, then you're going to pay the price for it. I think if you can get the production headed in that direction, where it's very large numbers of units, the same repeated units being built, that the price is going to eventually drop down into affordable. And affordable is the key word right now. We're seeing jobs also, because there's such a shortage of employees that are available in the marketplace right now. Something that was $13 an hour about 2 years ago now is $26 an hour. And it's really about companies share. It's almost like profit sharing. They need to keep their production up, or they're going to fail. We're looking at no manufacturing plant that we're going to build can have anything less than 10,000 units over 5 years pipeline. You have to have that. If you can't have that, then you can't survive. And I think we're running into with the manufacturing onshoring that's going on here, and all of the pains and pressures of that. We have some adjustments to make. I think both in building codes and bringing employees on. Yes, in some cases we're going to have to provide discounted housing to employees in order to get them to go to work for us. A lot of job training. Want to start with casual labor and work them into being crane operators and stitch and fit, and having some expertise in a year or two that they can actually earn a little bit more money and find a stable career long term. Mm-hmm. So and that's one of the things we're working on right now is concept to keys. We'll design the house, we'll bring the land in, and get all the development in place, build the house, and then send out from the factory a team that installs it, and with the local GC, you get an occupancy permit. And I try to get some efficiencies like that. So, and there's a lot of other things that are on, a lot of other concepts that are being brainstormed right now. I'm in a pretty large group of seasoned contractors and developers and just leaders of technology that are trying to solve all this right now on a daily basis on LinkedIn. And probably the one guy that you want to follow really closely just to get dialed into it is Gary Fleischer. And that's he's publishes a magazine and is kind of the center focus. There's an awful lot of conversations I'm running across that are working on all that. So That's pretty much state of the art right now for it.
So Mark, you and I have been talking about affordable housing lately, and what are your thoughts on that and what we can do locally?
That's a really good question. I think it's probably better suited for Larry. I mean,
Well, I'll tell you, there isn't. What I'm seeing now is the value add is dropping down the ages. The last one I saw that it just I couldn't figure out why anybody would want to buy it was a building that was built in 1958. You need to scrape that guy and start over. Anything before, I think 1978, I forget what the year was. They wouldn't allow asbestos into projects anymore. It was mid 70s somewhere. Anything prior to that, you might as well just stay away from. It not only costs you almost as much to retro one of those buildings as it does to just build new, with all of the new updated permits and requirements, local government requirements. And energy efficiency. How do you build that into a building that doesn't have any insulation and never had to have it when built? So I think we're seeing a new age here. It looks to me like about the same time that they started doing printed circuit boards and quit wiring electronics together. LED lighting and personal computers it's kind of that wave, and this is 200 years of technology that has to change. It can't continue the way that it is.
Right.
So Larry, what do you see on the horizon from an economic standpoint? Are you seeing, if you whipped out your crystal ball, are you seeing soft landing, hard landing? What's your take on that?
Well, I think there's a lot of demand in the market right now for manufactured goods and for housing and for some services that kind of will stabilize things. I don't know what we can do about inflation. I think inflation actually might help with the price of housing. Eventually we'll catch up with incomes are big enough because of inflation to be able to afford housing. I can see my food bill has doubled in the last 9 months. And so I'm wondering how it is that some of these families around in my neighborhood here can manage to continue. I think they're figuring it out, though. There's a lot of gardens and backyards that are going to start this spring. And so I think, we're pretty resilient. I'm a little bit concerned about a lot of folks we don't know anything about being a danger to our community. But I think I'm looking, what I'm seeing is 9 to 18 months, things will flatten out. And I think new construction, A-class ground up, LEED, ecologically sound, energy efficient constructions of all kinds are going to get built. Less cement and more panelized, new products, panelizations for all kinds of things. I don't know if anybody pays attention to sprung buildings, but they are giant tents that have 140 feet, 160 feet of clear height in them. And you can make them as big as you want, and they're insulated, and they cost half as much as a concrete tilt-up, and they go up in a quarter of the time. And you can take them all apart and move them someplace else. And I think as communities need housing, you're going to see temporary plants. I'm already seeing them show up. So I think there's a big technological change coming, like those we've seen in the past. I think we'll be okay. I'm not concerned about it so much. There are a group of people that are going to have a tough time adjusting to the change, and maybe they need some help. But I think for the most part, we're all resilient enough and certainly resourceful as we have historically been over the years that we'll catch up to it. I think it's going to be fine.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Here in Rochester, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Matt, but I know our downtown core is pretty vacant. So some adaptive reuse maybe.
Yeah, Larry. I mean, the story of downtown Rochester is that we've had a 10-year renaissance of a lot of these old office buildings being converted to housing.
Yep.
What happened is that, COVID happened, which put a further distress in the office market downtown. So now we have a lot of these functionally obsolescent buildings with huge, they're huge floor plates. There's a building called the First Federal Building downtown, and I mean each floor plate I think is like 20,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's a high rise, and if you were to convert that to residential, let's say, you'd lose about 50% of the building to common area loss factor, because you have the interiors of the building that are office that you can't build apartments with no windows, for instance. So that's definitely something with downtown Rochester, and the thing is that there's this incredible importance to build a critical mass of residential quickly enough so that we can bring street level vitality down to the retail streetscape. Because right now we have a lot of people that have moved downtown, these new apartments, but there's not enough of them to, like, let's say, support like a neighborhood grocery store and and bars and restaurants, and create that that vibrancy that a downtown needs to thrive.
Sure. Yeah, I've been looking at that for a while, and I used to rent office space or lease office space for folks in Silicon Valley 20 years ago. And we were always looking at the floor plates and how deep they were and what the floor to floor measurements were. And it was like 11 feet floor to floor, and the floor plates they could be 150 feet deep, and so there are combinations of use that once you figure out what the engineering is and what will the floor load be, what can what can your floors actually carry, and what part of the building. The other part is infrastructure. Where are you what do you do? How do you pile up 20 floors of effluent and have it be serviceable? And then out in the street, is there enough utility capacity to handle it? And so those just changes of use. So combinations of housing on the outside and storage on the inside. And then modular works really well on some. I'm looking at a lot of buildings that are single floor buildings, old R&D buildings in the Bay Area, in California, San Francisco Bay Area, that have been empty now for 3 or 4 years. Nobody wants to be in them, and since COVID, nobody wants to come back to work in them either. That they're nice buildings, good solid buildings in great neighborhoods, nice and neat and clean, with lots of access to freeways and shopping and the rest of it, that could be utilized with a combination of uses. Live work is one, for instance. I live and work in a 1,200 square foot old Victorian house in downtown Reno, and it's perfect for me. It's my office and a computer room, and I've got a bedroom and a bathroom and a kitchen, and that's absolutely perfect for me. And I've got other houses to be at, but I don't have to have them. So I think uses like that will come into play. I'm seeing, just coming back from Phoenix, seeing all of the retail and the choices of retail, and completely diverse from anything I see any other place. It's a whole community that is separate from the rest of the world, with different names. All, you can have 15 different kinds of tacos from 15 different local, so, and they're all 1,000 square foot users that eventually you can begin to do that on ground floors. And with the right, maybe the right staircases and the right elevators, you can even do retail on second floors. So, and then combinations of uses all the way up the towers. I think I just read an article that says that 38% of the new housing is going into retrofitted office buildings, and that was just a couple of days ago. So I think that transition is being made, and there are going to be some buildings that are never going to get used, I think. Local gardening too. Truck farms that are built in towers. I've seen a couple of those. So they're bringing and in downtown Detroit, there are folks that are farming in housing communities and in downtown areas. I think we're going to start looking at seeing a much more cosmopolitan community development, I think, than we've ever seen before. I think we just need to be open to it. Walking communities are a big deal. So shared cars, all of that is beginning to surface. And I think we have to make those changes.
Mm-hmm. How does modular fit into some of those adaptive reuse projects? How do you see that?
Yeah. Well, I'm working on one that is about a 75,000 square foot single floor. It's got a 14-foot clear height interior. Great building. You know, it's a concrete tilt up with great windows. And what it looks like is live work, probably 1,200 square foot units with kitchen and bathroom modules that are brought in. And with self-storage or unit storage in the middle, and garage parking in the parking lot in the back. And so those are simple retrofits. They don't cost a lot, and they don't require a lot of structural. So the real cost of construction is really borne in more the finish than in the actual structure itself. So. And I think that there's plenty of opportunities for those kinds of things. So I think modular is nothing more than stick built, only it's done in a factory. And it can be panels, and it can be units, it can be modules, and whole rooms, it can be specific uses like kitchens and bathrooms. Right now, Korea is shipping kitchens and bathrooms with all the appliances that you're used to. In 8-foot wide by 12-foot long modules that you incorporate into the floor plan. So I think there's more to come.
Very cool. How does that work on that project that you're doing in the 75,000 square feet as far as like plumbing goes?
It's going to have to be a raised floor.
Yeah,
you know, and most of the concrete floors, you can go in there, they don't have any structural value. You can go in and cut all the concrete and do all that. The biggest problem, again, is knowing that you can flow your effluent out to the street, and depending upon what that is. So depending upon where that building is located in the city's entire utility plan, you might be able to do it, and somebody that's out at the very end of utility lines might not be able to. So. Right. You know, I think a lot of brainstorming and a little bit of paying a lot of attention to engineer drawings, I think, is gonna really bring a lot of fruit to the surface, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of due diligence that you need to do on a property just to see if it's viable.
Yeah. Well, you know, due diligence, I think. For me, it's built over the years. So initially, it was a vacant piece of land. It looked like it fit 50 houses, you know, and so I'd go after it, never thinking that it wasn't zoned correctly, or that the infrastructure is 5 miles away. And oh, by the way, they want you to build a couple of big 4-lane intersections with signals and crap. You know, I never thought about all that. But now, after a lot of banging my head against the wall, now I see the checklist that you have to kind of every building, this checklist will work really well for. There is a pretty nice checklist out there that I see. Can I mention a name? Jeff Greenberg. Can I mention his name?
Sure.
He's got one of the best checklists for determining whether or not a project makes sense as an investment. Well, it's going to be the sum total of his investment has to be a well-built building that will accommodate whatever the use is. So, you know, good checklist, and just getting used to it. And, you know, I can drive past a piece of property. I've seen so many of them now. I use an app on my cell phone. It's Land Glide, costs $10 a month. It'll tell you all about who owns the land and what it's zoned, and put you in contact with, tells you all about the neighborhoods around. There's another one too, it's the Urban Zoning Atlas, just popped up. That'll give you a heat map for all of the different communities, and you could see just by looking at it whether or not you want to really spend your time in that community doing anything. And you could do that from anywhere. So So I think utilizing a lot of the new data and tools is really it's not so hard, and you got to like doing it too. I love my work, and I can't do anything else. I'm not smart enough to do anything.
Well, I want to talk about an idea because I think I brought this idea to one of our previous guests. There's this trend with regional shopping malls where they were built with huge parking lots to accommodate shoppers who would come in and shop at these shopping malls on nights and weekends. So they needed a large capacity for that. With the nature of work that's changed, the staggering of people that come into these malls is throughout the day, throughout the week, and not just on nights and weekends. So there's these huge underutilized parking lots that these regional shopping malls have that are largely underutilized. And so there's some developers that are recognizing this opportunity and actually developing multifamily on the excess parking. So just wondering what your thoughts were on that, because that would seem like it would be a perfect fit for modular.
Sure. Yeah, there's a development in Santa Clara, California called Santana Row, and they started with 47 acres, and I can't even begin to tell you how many housing units and how many successful businesses there are in that 47 acres. But it's across the board. It's everything. So what I think makes a lot of sense is you keep your parking. You can't lose that parking for the retail that's there. I think what you do is put up a post-tension slab above it, and then around the perimeter do small, shallow, small square footage, shallow retail all the way around. Add to the retail mix, park behind it, and build townhouses on top of it. And you're basically you're preserving the parking. You're not doing anything that it wouldn't be a good solid long-term development that should last and look a lot like you guys' communities. I mean, God, you go downtown to any big city and you're looking at 6 floors of housing above a single floor of commercial of one kind or another. So I don't see the regional shopping centers turning that away. I know in my neighborhood there are 2 or 3 that's exactly what they're going to do with them. I forget who's the big mall owner. He has one I think he's a perfect target for it. Can't remember his name now. His age. So is that something that makes sense to you guys, or?
Yeah, so you're saying going up on the existing footprint of?
Yeah,
Okay.
just post-tension slab. Basically, you put up a bunch of pillars and pour a cable tensioned concrete slab on top of it, and then built so that it'll handle a townhouse. And the one in Santana Row has 2- and 3-story homes, single-family homes with garages parked up about above 2 floors of parking, and with great views and lots of privacy and security. So the dirt is really not a factor. It turns into a 99-year lease or somehow shared ownership that needs to be engineered, and that just helps that brings actually those people that come in on the weekends and fill up the parking lot. Well, a good portion of those potential buyers and patrons are living there. So it becomes a walking community, and with a lot of security and a lot of reasons to be there. Good access to freeways.
Mm-hmm.
Now, isn't the cost to do something like that significantly higher?
Well, you could be paying for land. I think the last time I looked at post-tension slabs, 1 floor is $58 a square foot, $60. So that doesn't, and it's pretty flexible. You can do anything you want. Foundations are not necessary in houses. You can build on the slab.
Right.
There's a lot of advantages and trade-offs that economically it should work pretty comfortably, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you wash a few of those items like foundations and
Sure.
that makes sense. Yeah, that would be a good model.
Yeah.
We've got tons and tons of parking lots here.
Yeah, and the other thing too is they're weather protected, so you're not redoing the parking lot constantly.
Right.
So there's a bunch of features, reasons why it makes sense. You just have to be willing to spend the money to convert it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what type of are there any GPs you're looking for projects you have in the pipeline? I know you were working on that for, I think, a housing development you had going on.
Yeah. Well, you and I were actually talking about it, and I think I might have been trying to recruit you too, actually, as a GP sponsor to come in and take our projects once they're ready for construction. We need a GP sponsor to come in and basically take the project as it begins, it starts construction, lease it up, manage it, and over the term of the project until final disposition, and then handle the final disposition. Mm-hmm. And so I have a number of people, a couple of guys that I met actually at Raise Fest. I have a number of people we're talking to. It looks like it's going to be split into two parts. One would be asset manager, which I'm looking for. I'd like to have an asset manager, but that asset manager needs to know how to hire a day-to-day management, actually facility management group, and we'll put that together. Probably portfolios up to maybe 6,000 or 7,000 units.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for those.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of units.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, talking to people like Beardsley. Rob Beardsley says that's nothing. That 1,250 units is not a problem. He says you're going to start thinking about it being big when it gets up around 4,500 units. But having that, I know that Reed Goosens has a number of pretty good sized portfolio under management, and he does all that exactly the way that he does actually the asset management in-house. But then he has teams out in the neighborhoods and the regions that he's built or owns units to manage them. So I think I'm pretty deep into that now. I'd like to get some people signed up pretty soon. But, I've got until the end of this year to really, really work on it. So if you've got any ideas, please give me a call for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm pretty rooted in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
With my with my little family. So unless the environment here got so bad that we'd want to move.
Yeah. So how many your kids are? How old are they?
Let's see. We got a 6-month-old and a 3.5-year-old.
Yeah. Well, shoot, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to want to ski and they're going to want to be on bikes and going to want to be boating on Lake Tahoe. And, so this is the third most attractive place in the nation to move to. Mm-hmm. So just because of all of the activities that we have to enjoy here. So
you can twist my arm. I'm sick in New York. I'm ready to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty nice here. It's pretty. Yeah, it's not overgrown at all like Phoenix, but it's gonna be. There's a lot of prospect here for folks you guys' ages. Anybody in their mid-20s to early 40s are going to do pretty well in this region. Lots of jobs, lots of technology, lots of fun things to do, and there's a lot of places all over the country to start having a lifestyle away from big cities. So I think you're seeing a lot of that. I forget what the U-Haul survey was, but it's some pretty crazy places there people are moving to. So don't put it out of your mind. I've got a job for you.
Nice.
So we got about 5 minutes left. So closing out, Larry, we haven't talked about this, but what do you do for fun?
I love to drive. I'm a driver. I just finished up. So I started in Reno, drove to Phoenix, then I went to Southern California, and I drove up the coast, spent a couple of days in the Bay Area, and then came home. And it was, it's a 1,600-mile drive, but I get to see some of the best country, a lot that I've never seen before. I do that quite a bit. I was an alpine skier quite a bit and a bike rider. Spend a lot of time up in Lake Tahoe, and I'd like to tour. Just go down to Morro Bay and go visit all the shell shops and eat strange food, and just a couple of days. Linda and I are travelers and love just hanging out. We don't have families with us anymore. They're all doing stuff on their own, thank God. And but visit them once in a while. So we're about vacationing as much as we can.
Yeah. Where are your favorite spots to vacation?
I've got a house in Incline Village in Lake Tahoe. Like to go to Yosemite every year. We're talking about going to Yellowstone every year. And I'll be up in Canada, a little bit of business, and up in Portland, Oregon, a little bit of family, and a little bit of business. I'm down in Southern California about a dozen times a year. So just kind of sticking to the West Coast, not trying to get any more than 300-400 miles from home, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Always taking a different road. It's always a loop. It's never out one direction and back the same way. We always take different roads. So,
if you ever want to come over here, we'll give you the grand tour of the greater upstate.
Sure. Well, I am headed that way. I did a lot of work back on the East Coast from North Carolina back in 2005. It looks like I got to go back there again too this year. There's an awful lot of interest and a lot of the experts in modular housing or modular construction technologies. They're all located back by you guys. And so visiting with them, I love, visiting face to face and, shaking hands and walking on the dirt I want to do deals on. So I'm going to continue that, that'll probably never quit for me.
Nice.
Yeah, no, Canandaigua Lake is like the Lake Tahoe of the East.
Yeah.
Actually. So that's about 40 minutes away from us.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think Linda's been there. Linda's been all over the world. And so we're going to go revisit some places like that. So it's probably not too far out of the question. Either you're going to move here and I'm going to shake your hand, or I'm going to visit you there and shake your hand.
Or both.
So.
Awesome. You got any final remarks, Matt or Larry?
If anybody wants to be in touch with me, I'll give you the phone number is 408-888-6122. And the website is larryrmartin.com. And just be in touch. And if I can get your phone number and your email in my book, you can call me 24/7. I'll answer the phone. If I miss you, go to the top of the list and I'll call you right back. I'd like to brainstorm. I always learn from all of my conversations. So don't be strangers.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience does too. I've got a lot of friends that want to get into the modular. I'm sure they're tuned in, and I'll be reaching out to you.
Yeah, good. Send them my way. Yeah. I have 6 or 8 times during the week that I have a calendar, my Calendly calendar. You can pick a time. It's guaranteed. You get a half an hour. And I love to meet with people. So I'm booked pretty well right now, but just get on there and let's talk.
That's right. After leaving that conference, you're probably booked up for the next 6 months.
Yeah, actually not so bad. All of those people, we traded, and now what they're doing is they're calling me direct. So nobody's taking my calendar times right now.
Yeah, there's usually a big uptick right after the conference with new emails and calls, and
Sure.
Well, Larry, thanks again for coming on the show, man. We'll have to do it again sometime soon. And
sure.
And good to see you guys. I have a 3:00 call. I gotta jump on, so I'm gonna dip out right now, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
You bet.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah.
You bet.
See you guys next week.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.